That's it.
Like I said, I'm not going to use the word where it's terrible. We walk the streets and we hear everybody of every hue and every nationality calling people ends and ends and ends.
Right.
And people of my age, it really still offends me. I mean, the fact, I remember,
Yes.
I know what it meant. And you hear our own people, them legitimizing that term to such an effect.
You're right.
Where it's now in the public domain. Like, how can you say it's wrong when everybody uses it? No, it's wrong. And it's time to end the N-word.
Right.
You know, we know what we're talking about.
We've tried. They use, oh please, that really breaks my heart. And when I'm on a bus and you're sitting there talking to your friend,
and you can hear,
and you think, come on, this is a personal conversation. Why must you abuse the hearing of people who are there with you? They don't care what your mother did or what your father did or your girlfriend or whatever. Really, it's personal. Unless you're just a voyeur, you don't want to hear that kind of garbage.
Correct.
You know.
And like I said, unfortunately, these are things, like I keep mentioning, it's the individual, the family, and the community. These three, we have to all pull together to make these changes and differences. Because, like I said, you can't save, the communities first.
Yes.
And the failure of the community, even the individuals,
don't you think
the families will go down.
I thought I'd be the last to say it, but the churches have as much a responsibility as the police department.
Well, the churches are like a bulwark of the community. That's like really the anchor of our community. So really, yes, it has a great responsibility. Because we haven't had any real strong institutions like anything there what other communities have. The church is it. It's always been that.
Yes.
And in church, whether it's in our churches or other religious institutions, all have to realize we have a responsibility to do the worship and etc. But you want to save your community so you have a community to worship. Because as the people slide down, into the abyss, they're not going to be showing up to church or any other institution of religion. And these young folks, we don't get them into these institutions at the rates we had them before.
That's right.
It's just less and less. Like I said, it's the worst thing happening to our community. We're taking now 3-4 steps forward and we're taking 4 or 5 back. It's just terrible. And we can't exist like this for so long because extinction, and I'm not talking about total extinction, but extinction as a successful community is by degrees. It doesn't take everybody to go bad. It just takes enough where the community is no longer viable.
Right.
Where, quote unquote, people start talking about other folk coming in and taking over and other. Well, if you're not viable enough to do this for yourself, you're leaving openings. Now, it's not, so you have nothing to complain about if you don't do everything you can. All the sacrifices you have to make, whatever. If you want to save something, you will save it at any cost.
True.
That's what you're talking about. Sacrifice. Sacrifice isn't doing what's easy. No. Sacrifice is what's doing difficult.
Yes.
And so it's time for the communities to sacrifice. And that includes the churches, law enforcement institutions, business institutions, those folk who actually have money available, who are riding around in 10 Rolls Royces and not investing a dime into our communities.
Tell it.
Talk is cheap. We're not asking you to give anything to anybody. You set up institutions, community not-for-profits or whatnot, and get your money back, but invest it in your own people, and stop looking at others and saying, "What are you doing here?" Well, you left the door open. And not only did you broke the lock.
Go ahead.
Now you expect me not to step in? There's opportunity here.
There you go.
And we live in a capitalist country.
And we know certain areas are, it's like the Mecca. Let's call it what it is. You have Harlem. Everybody at some point wants to walk through Harlem to feel that they have arrived in the so-called Black Mecca.